Okay, Lloyd over here. He's going to come back to another subject that he has prepared for us. Thanks so much, Lloyd, for doing this, taking the time to do it. And this has to do with abrogation. Now, abrogation, I've always heard, and remember, there are two verses in the Quran that speak about abrogation. In chapter 2, verse 106, and in chapter 16, verse 101. That which we give, which is called Mansukh, we give something better, which is called Nasikh in Arabic. So Mansukh is the original verse, that's the first verse. Then another one is given by Allah at a different date, a later date, and that is known as Nasikh, which is strong. The one is weak, the other is strong. So the strong abrogates the weak, eradicates the weak.
It's referred to really as the abrogating and the abrogated. That's how they typically refer to it within the text.
Okay, abrogating would be Nasikh and abrogated would be Mansukh, the earlier one. Now, the difficulty with the Quran, of course, is which comes first, which comes second, because there's no chronology in the Quran. It's ulta-pulta, it's all over the place. Rule of thumb is when you take the Quran and you just, at least in the Quran, and you can be going into the Shariah and explaining that, but from the Quranic standpoint, this is the first half, this is the second half, that was Medinan, that was Meccan. So the second half actually came first, the first half came second, turned upside down, you got the right sequence.
There's more than one kind of abrogation. I'll just briefly mention another type of abrogation called Mantuk and Mafun. Have you heard of those?
No.
Okay, so very briefly, and I can do this at another time, but Mantuk and Mafun. Let's say a verse in the Quran says the sky is blue. And now, Muslims have a look outside and they realize they made a mistake and the sky is bright pink. What happens is, the verse still says the sky is blue because that is what is in the text. However, when it is read by the scholars, it is understood to mean the sky is bright pink with yellow stripes. So you have the mantuk, the old meaning, and the mafhum, the understood meaning, if not the literal meaning. Does that make sense?
Okay, so this correction needs to be made every time it's repeated, is what you're saying, or this is because they know it is wrong. They know the original is wrong, therefore they create a new understanding.
I'm not that well versed. I'd have to go into my notes to get the specifics on that. However, just understand that it exists, that it is there. And then I must also mention, and I can do this again another time, but abrogation is not only a replacement of an older, less applicable verse with something new. However, abrogation, according to the scholars, actually are also there by Allah to fix Muhammad's mistakes. The scholars do state that. We can go through the topic another time, but I also just want to clarify for the audience that the Qur'an abrogates the Qur'an. So newer verse abrogates older verse. The Hadith have exactly the same. A newer Hadith abrogates previous Hadith. However, understand, a newer Hadith can abrogate an older Qur'an verse, and a newer Qur'an verse can abrogate an older Hadith.
Whoa. Hold on a minute. Are you saying the Hadith can abrogate the Quran?
Yes.
How many Muslims know this? I've never heard this before. I have always heard that the Quran is sacrosanct, that nothing abrogates.
No, it is not. It is abrogated.
Okay, all right.
The Shariah is sacrosanct. Remember last week I read that the Shariah can never be abrogated or annulled. The Quran has been abrogated. The Shariah can never be.
Within the Quran, the law of abrogation exists for that very reason, but I've never heard...
It is covered in the Shariah. They have rules on abrogation within the Shariah. They discuss it.
So you're saying the most sacrosanct of all the three genera of authority, the Quran, the Hadith, and the Shariah is the most is the strongest, is the most authoritative. Okay?
It is. The ijma, the consensus, is the primary source of ruling, of legislation, of authority, yes.
And that's why you spent so much time on the Shariah, because you know that this is what they have to follow. Fascinating. Okay, this is good. All right, continue.
All right. Right, so maybe we can jump onto the topics. It's just 3 slides, really. I just want to talk about a couple of subjects about how Christianity has been abrogated by Islam. So I'll share my screen and we'll just jump into that. Christianity has been abrogated by Islam. It has replaced all religions before it. So this is the Reliance of the Traveller, and you did say earlier that it is the Shaafi school of Fiqh manual. However, I do want to clarify, Jay, this is the most popular Islamic law manual in the world.
Oh, so it's used by the Maliki and the Hanbali and Hanafi schools as well?
This is the single most common and single most popular Islamic law manual in the world. Okay. It was written to be accessible. It is a single volume. It is not 4 volumes of thousands of pages. It's a single volume, and therefore it is very popular, and it is used by all schools of Islam.
Would you suggest we buy it and have it in our library?
I would strongly recommend that. Obviously you can download as PDF, but yes, it is a very valuable resource.
We will put right there at the bottom in the description box. We'll show you where you can get it in PDF. So if you do want it, if you don't want to have to buy it, you can go ahead and get it. It's just one volume, and therefore I would suggest, as Lloyd is saying, that you all get a copy of it.
So section W 4.0, the finality of the Prophet's message, taken from section A 1.5. This section has been translated to clarify possible confusions among Muslims as to Islam's place amongst world religions. They clarify for us here in point 2, previously revealed religions were valid in their own eras, as is attested to by the Qur'an. However, they were abrogated by the universal message of Islam, as is equally attested by many verses of the Qur'an. And these points are worthy of attention from English-speaking Muslims who are occasionally exposed to erroneous theories advanced by some teachers and Quran translators. And these erroneous theories are, they affirm that these religions' validity, or they're affirming these religions' validity, but denying or not mentioning their abrogation. So Islam has abrogated Christianity, right? Or that it is unbelief, kufr, it is unbelief for a Muslim to hold that the remnant cults, now bearing the names of formerly valid religions, such as Christianity or Judaism, are acceptable to God, Allah the Most High, after he sent the final messenger to the entire world. This is a matter over which there is no disagreement among the Islamic scholars. This is the ijma. Now, Islam is the final religion that Allah will never lessen or abrogate until the last day.
Wow. Okay.
So we are remnant cults of formerly valid religions. When we pray according to the Islamic law, our prayers fall as ashes, as dust at our feet. Allah doesn't even hear us. He is blind to us.
Okay. Wow. Puts us in our place and shows us where we are in the view of Muslims. And you can see, if they've been reading this, why they look down upon us. So it happens in every religion. Catholics do that to Protestants. Protestants see Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons as cults. So we do that all. We kind of look down on the other as being something less than. And here you see that there's an injunction. That now we do that just between ourselves. There's nothing written down that says that Protestants are cults or that Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons are cults. We just say that off the top of our head. Here, this is actually written down as an injunction that all Christians and Jews, in this case, are nothing more than cults.
Right. So hopefully that clarifies, and we'll move to the next. Now, understand that Islam teaches that Abraham hates Jews and hates Christians. So let's have a look here at Quran 60 verse 4. You have already had a fair example in Ibrahim and the ones with him, as they said to their people, surely we are completely quit of you, and whatever you worship apart from Allah, we disbelieve in you, and between you and us is enmity. Enmity is defined in the dictionary as hostility, hatred, ill will, animosity, antagonism. So between you and us, enmity has appeared, and abhorrence. Abhorrence is defined as extreme repugnance, loathing, and abomination. So between you and us, enmity has appeared, and abhorrence forever, until you believe in Allah alone. Except that Ibrahim said to his father, I will definitely ask forgiveness for you, and in no way do I possess anything for you from Allah. Now that's from the Dr. Ghali translation, Quran 60 verse 4. Now, there's an Islamic doctrine called the doctrine of al-wala wal-bara, disassociation and enmity, or loyalty and disavowal. You will find other terms utilized. So do understand that this loyalty and disavowal, this doctrine, teaches Muslims to hate Jews and Christians because Abraham hates us. And Abraham hates us because Allah hates us. Allah is a God who hates. And therefore, Muslims are required to follow the will of Allah and to follow the teaching of Abraham, and therefore they must hate us. So let's have a look in this text here. You have to know that after loving Allah and his messenger, and remember, Muhammad is perfect. You have to love Muhammad with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, all your money, more than your father, more than your mother, more than your child, more than your life, more than your money, because Muhammad is perfect. He must be greater to you than anything else in your life, including yourself. After loving Allah and his messenger, Allah obligates us to hate those who oppose Allah and His Messenger, and to hate the people of Shirk, that is us. This obligation comes from the creed of Abraham, the creed we are ordered to follow.
Goodness sakes. Wow. Go ahead. So this goes way beyond just Muslims hating Jews and Christians. Abraham hated Jews. Isn't that convenient? When you get the man, they go back to the very man who started the whole thing, was given the covenant by God, and the covenant, which is very clear, that God gave him. So it's obvious that in the Bible, it's very clear that the covenant is with Isaac through Abraham, not with Ishmael. And here you're having Abraham desecrating or having animosity towards the very people that God has given him, the very people that come from his progeny, and giving him, basically saying that he actually loves Ishmael, not Isaac, which is completely contradictory with what the Bible is saying. How are Muslims going to defend this when you can see that this is from 1900 BC? What they're talking about is, in this case, the Reliance of the Traveler is from 11. Is it what's the date for the Reliance of the Traveler? 14th century.
I believe it's 14th century. Yeah.
14th century. Jeez. So you can see this is absolutely heinous, but continue on.
Yeah. Just want to mention, notice here, those who died after spending their lives waging war against their appetite of soul were regarded as martyrs. Now, I'm not going to get into that, but understand, but those who tried to become good Muslims, to suppress their inner self, their conscience, as it were, their nafs, I'll get into that another time, these people are regarded as martyrs. Now notice, you're regarded as a martyr by trying to suppress your conscience, right? Even if you die in your own bed. Now remember, a jihadi dies as a martyr. However, if you die in your own bed, but you've been fighting against your conscience, you are a shahid who will be treated as if you had been killed fighting alongside the prophets. I'll stop sharing, but that's what I wanted to show you, that hating others is a service to Allah that has the same reward as jihad, the highest reward in Islam, to hate the non-Muslim and conceal that fact.
Okay, this is God. Are you seeing now this idea of abrogation that we see in the Quran in chapter 2, verse 106, and chapter 16, verse 101, has been expanded beyond what the Quran intended. The Quran intended that this is just between the Medinan and the Meccan verses, to expand it to between Christians and Islam, or Jews and Islam, or anybody else and Islam, but particularly the people of the book, the Al-Kitab, those of us who are Jews or Christians, we are to be abrogated because of the fact that Abraham, even as far back as Abraham, hated us. It turns everything we know on its head. It turns all of history on its head. It turns all of Revelation on its head. It pretty much says, don't trust the Bible, because the Bible is very clear that Abraham's lineage comes through Isaac, not through Ishmael, that Abraham loved Isaac, and it was through Isaac that God's covenant came through, his covenant. In Genesis chapter 17, verse 19 and 20, my covenant is with Isaac, not Ishmael. That whole covenantal history. And this is what Muslims need to ask. When you look at the Quran and look at all the prophets that are in the Quran, 25 prophets, 4 of them are names we don't know, 2 of them are Ishmael and Muhammad. The other 19 prophets are all in the line of Isaac. Obviously, even the Quran stipulates that the Isaac line is absolutely important. It is authoritative. It is so much stronger than that of Ishmael. Why then does this law of abrogation turn that on its head and say that Abraham hated that which in fact, he hated all those 19 prophets, is what it's saying? That to me is a contradiction. Muslims, are you following this? You can see the Reliance of the Traveler has got a problem here, because what it's showing me is the Reliance of the Reliance of the Traveler has not read the Quran, and whoever wrote the Reliance of the Traveler did not understand their own Quran, did not understand the prophetic line, did not understand the covenant that God had with Abraham, and did not understand Abraham. I'll leave it for you Muslims to try to make sense of all that and try to come up with some type of response. I wouldn't know how to respond if I were a Muslim, but it's obviously now why this hatred towards Israel is so rampant all over the Muslim world. It's obvious now why this anti-Semitism is. I see it in almost every Muslim I meet, regardless if they even know a Jew, or regardless if they have anything to do with Israel. Many of my Muslim friends who come from Pakistan and India have never met a Jew, and they'll never see a Jew, and have nothing to do with Israel, yet they hate Jews. Why is it this visceral hatred? Well, I can see why now. They have been pretty much indoctrinated to do so because of this law, not only of abrogation, but because of all the other teachings they have. And we saw in even just in the last episode where we saw the Al-Qayyim making slander upon slander against Christians and Jews. When you grow up with that type of slander, when you grow up with that type of, I've heard this from Muslims all the time. They look at us as pig eaters and urinators all the time. Now I see where it comes from. It comes from
variations of Ibn Qayyim and Ibn Taymiyyah's work is found in what they call the tarbiyah guides, the behavioral guides or manners guides. Those are what Muslim students learn in their madrasa. But in fact, you even have variants for young children as early as 5 who go to like their version of Islamic school, madrasa for like little kids. Yeah. The same content is there in those manuals at the madrasas as well.
Wow, amazing stuff. Listen, this is good stuff that Lloyd's bringing to us. It's very practical. You can use it. And Muslims, you're going to have to respond to it. I don't know how you're going to do it. I'm glad I'm not in your shoes. I'm glad I don't have to support this kind of vitriol and this really this whole category of abhorrence and animosity towards people like us. Nonetheless,
it would be easy if there were nice Sharia verses or Sharia rulings, Sharia laws that said the opposite. If I'm wrong, and Muslims do say in the comments, I'm wrong, I'm a Google scholar, but this is directly from the major fiqh. If the fiqh says something else, bring us that fiqh text and show me where on the page it says that, how I am getting this wrong.
Come back at us. Let's see what you have.
That's not going to happen, but you're welcome to try.
Now, listen, we do need to end this off. This has been a good episode. What I would like you to do next is to go and unpack taqiyya for us. You've introduced it in that last slide. I want to know what you mean by this. What exactly is this taqiyya? Where are Muslims coming from? Where do they get this idea of dissemination, not being truthful whenever they're outside of Dar al-Islam and they come into Dar al-Harb, which means a house of war, which means
it's worse than that, Jay.
Okay, well, that's going to be the next episode. So listen, we'll leave you all now for this time. It's been good to have Lloyd here. Comment there. You've got the comments. Just go ahead and comment down below. You have all kinds of chance to do that. Lloyd will be watching. He will be reading and he'll be responding. If we see some comments that need to be unpacked more and we need to actually explain them, we'll do that. And I'll bring Lloyd back to respond to your Q&As. Okay, this is Lloyd in Poland, myself here in the United States. Over and out.
Bless.